We're gonna do some trolley problems.
Trolley Probs. An old man does his morning Tai Chi on the railroad track as trolley barrels at him at 60 miles per hour. But pull this lever and the trolley...
Sorry, I really gotta change that. That's my bad. Would it be keep going? Oh.
Trolley Probs. An old man does his morning Tai Chi on the railroad track as trolley barrels at him at 60 miles per hour. But pull this lever and the trolley will be diverted to hit this praised band of adulterous teenagers who will soon move on to sensible careers in media. What do you do? You. Sorry, old man. You've had a good life, though. A baby in a tiger play out of tooth and claw scenario. The tiger is dead set on feasting, but pull the lever and the trolley will smash straight into yourself, having just made your decision. What do you do? You. Bon appetit. Put my earbuds on and listen to my podcasts. A comedian who's funny but has lived a hellish life is on the tracks and drawing a crowd. Pull that lever, and you turn to bloody ribbons a church full of humans at a wedding of two serial killers. What do? You just missed a heckler who lost their religion. On a black screen, you hold a button for 10 minutes. A Laris Leighton for 10 pops up, then it slays your enemies one by one. What do? You. 10 minutes is too long when you only get 10 seconds. We'll read a book. Picnic under the bridge. Watch jets fly overhead, under the bridge. Fall asleep. Winter comes. Something more productive than listening to my screams as it burns me from the seventh circle, from Hell's Gate. Picnics and walks under bridges are so much fun, oh, when you don't know where you're going, how nice are picnics? Hey! Is the dog chasing after the duck? Here, let me feed your duck some grass. Hey, now let's feed this dog some grass. Hey, is the kid carrying the duck? Hey, now let's feed this kid some grass. Hey, let's feed baby's toe some grass. Hey, look, it's that man back to back with his dog. Ha ha ha. Good laugh there. What are they doing now? Are they sniffing each other? They are, aren't they? That's right. Are they rub humping right now? Wow, what a pair. Honey, you want to rub my belly right now? What have we here? It looks like baby has green fingers. Didn't the ad say it was only for adults? Maybe it was an adult dog, too. Looks kind of grumpy. Why don't we go back home together? Your friend calls and wants to meet you at your house in 5 minutes, or he'll call 911 to report a missing child. He also threatens to sue your ass if you don't answer your door in 5 minutes, or else he'll blow you away in front of all your neighbors. The police will now be coming with iced tea and their bad attitudes, which will only get worse if you don't show up at your house in 5 minutes, or else. What do? You. Don't worry, I'll throw myself under the bus because your old cats are so cute and soothing. I'll go sit there and try my best to hold them until they run their course, because I know it's plan I'll hold them and kiss them and love them forever until they die right before my eyes, because I want them to live forever and ever. They're so funny and we hold hands, right? What does that sound? Oh no, what has happened here? We must hurry up and love them very, very much while we can. I love them so much here. Have another hit right now. Someone call 9-1-1. Someone else get me a shovel. Our cat is dead. Jude America. Funeral train. A wanderer rides an underground train through the streets of his city. During his voyage, he meets a young boy crying over his recently deceased father's coffin. The train then stops at every stop along the way, but as it slows down to each stop, a second coffin will rise from the ground and join the coffin inside the rail car, resulting in a funeral train of coffins rising above ground level. At one stop, a woman has stopped her car but does not recognize anyone with such a parade of coffins rising above ground level in all directions. What do you do? Nothing good ever comes out of asking why when someone else dies. It's usually followed by, why just go back to sleep and wake up happy but keep your eyes open at least once in a while, or else you'll be sorry when something good comes along, unless it's about another human starving to death in a ditch somewhere. Then drop your phone like you were shoved off a cliff by an angel, or else lose your mind. Among the ruminations acquired through decades of pharmaceutical studies, I say bury that phone. What good is it anyway, even if you did see an angel, or else stare at it for 10 minutes, spilling marijuana extract down your pants, knowing the world is going nowhere anyway, because nobody is going anywhere. When someone dies, everyone is too fucked up to go anywhere. That's just life. I mean, if I don't smoke so often in order not to spew, I have to be stoned out of my mind, otherwise I'm terrified. Shit like death isn't so scary once you learn how to stifle that fear. Already have I been smoking pot since college, because that's what life is about, always growing up and growing, never more stoned. I tell you, type of thing anyway. Screw God. People are born stoned and die stoned. You don't need God unless you're stoned all the time, because then you're just trying too hard to prove some point. There's no reason in God anyway. Who needs God when instead of trying to figure out something? So be honest, we could all just meet up on a Sunday for a big old feast and start blowing each other. It would be how I know there's something else up there after death. Otherwise, there would be no reason for us to learn how to eat right, because we never really need to figure shit out anymore anyway. God, that's good. A friend calls and wants to talk about the consequences of dying. What do you say? You drunk? Oh, it's nature's way of telling us to stop being such assholes. It's just old people trying to help us out by filtering out the new generations who only care for themselves because their parents are too old to do shit for anyone else. It happens when someone is facing death, so I know it will happen soon when I am an old man, but only old women. Please hang up on me if you're not old enough to be my grandma, because all old men are either lazy or crazy or both. Please call me tonight, because I'm only tonight, at least until I get drunk. Then we can talk about our self-righteous philosophies. You know there are also consequences when we die. That's why we're here, bitches. What a lovely fucking world, isn't it? Ancient soul. A friend calls you from hell. What do you say? Chris. Sorry, stupid, saved myself for college and also bought my bachelor's here in Hades, but apparently knowing human anatomy doesn't qualify me as an engineer, so my soul gets sent here, cause fuck it, where else would I go? It's like if you're sending me on a job interview and they say, we won't even give you credit if you fail, so now I'm gonna fail cause all those class A kids out there can't be bothered to learn basic limitations of our anatomy here, knock on wood. Please not too hard, fuck. A friend calls and wants to talk about their girlfriend who is going back into eating walls because she said she was about to hit rock bottom, but she realizes she hasn't hit rock bottom at all, as she is determined to kill herself with drugs and alcohol and also by eating walls because they're so easy, as she always wants what she can't have but what she really needs in her life. She's been running from ever since the basement in her house came apart on her. So Chris, what do we do? Do we just live in hell and fuck everything and everyone we want? Because even though we are destined to be united in hell, we have to put up with everything on earth while being punished for our selfishness anyway, because according to biology, we don't deserve to live on earth, so here we are. Okay, enough, Chris. This woman really needs help now. Please cut me off and let me talk to her. Second fiddle. A friend calls and wants to talk to about their love for someone because they feel they are second fiddle. What do you say? Oh Jesus, that is not healthy, is it? No, it isn't. know what they want from the person they love isn't healthy. Love, it's unhealthy. Love, people seek materialistic luxuries from the person they care about once they grow bored. Solitaire is one thing, but when I know that I am putting everyone around me at risk in order to satisfy some addiction, that doesn't leave me much time for anything else but myself. Be careful. If love feels this ambivalent, if it feels like this, then perhaps there's a reason this person doesn't want you in their life right now. Hold on. Who are you and what is your purpose here? The rise of the feminists. A friend calls and wants to talk about the rise of the feminists as they have been starting to take over things like the workplace. Nowadays scares the hell out of me. What if they make more money or even more than me? Because feminism is a mental disorder that should be treated by psychiatrists with lots of electroshock therapy based on my personal experience of having escaped the clutches of femininity that took over hell country once upon a time, and I lost time. 4 years! 4 years lost! And I was crying every day of them damn 4 years. What happened to the good old days of when women were coddled by men who made them feel safe inside the confines of their bug-filled burrows down here in the lower depths of society? Why would anyone want to do anything different than that? A woman, no matter how pretty or not pretty, has her place in society that men must follow. But when these modern startups absconding with my job or making more money than I am because they have the right words and that increased confidence that comes with domestic feminism, they should get zapped with 800 volts via electronic brain surgery so they don't fuck up our society any further, as I am sick of being the strong, silent type that teaches a lost generation how messed up our society is today. Look at them all. They're such fucking ninnies. This world fucking needs more private detectives like me. Future incarnations. A friend calls and wants to talk about your future selves. What do you say? You? Huh? Oh, neat. My future selves are pretty awesome. They are at a nice place called university where they're studying philosophy and sociology. They're learning new things. Your mind goes blank. Your attention fades. You realize you've just been staring at the lens of your camera phone for the last half hour because your brains cannot process what your friend is trying to tell you. The screen shows Ruth sitting on a log. He cuts through his words as you mumble your reply. They're going to pass. You don't care. You just cannot think anymore. Your vocal cords are closed. Your eyes are closed. Just as Ruth tells you whatever means something important. You summarize. Your friend was telling your future selves what you were thinking about them. In your mind's eye, you see yourself as a 4-year-old boy. Now you see yourself in 10 years. On the 30th of June 2045, your future selves watch with shock as you walk out of this world. This leaves them brokenhearted. You were not supposed to pass away today. Tomorrow never had been supposed to come, and when it finally did arrive permanently, you broke their hearts forever. The shocking vision wrecks your mind with torment. You feel physically ill. As you feel yourself slipping into unconsciousness, you cry out and utter what passes through your mind next. Why? Why did you take me away from them? Why did it have to be today? Now I will never see them again. I go to hell next, so maybe it does not matter what happens after death anymore. Now I know why God had spread so many archetypes throughout history, such as Jesus, Buddha, Horus, Anubis, Odin, and others, even King Solomon, because he promises us that you will keep during those days secret from those who are not shown. Leo 23:21. There are so many secrets hidden in stories passed along from past which we could never understand until we join this vapor-cold existence still roaming the universe. Deep inside us, we know little tricks which help us solve intricate problems, or influences which lead us into making choices from opposite perspectives, allowing us to understand different obstacles we must overcome in life, which makes us who we are. No matter what tomorrow may bring, we still possess within us a compass which guides us towards happiness, joy, and freedom, which is always within our ken. Our minds need a reason to exist, and it helps us guide our way out of this world as we shed our skin and become something else one day, where we will have fun playing tic-tac-toe with other incarnations we meet along the way, like our friends back where we met in hell at Stanford University. Oh, Mark Zuckerberg, my soul will remember you forever and ever because you taught me how to make newspapers better by changing people's lives using the power of social engineering as a digital currency on Facebook to help people escape from social media zombies who could never love me. You inspired me to fight for my dreams, change the world, and be part of the best ideas I have ever thought about when you made me challenge my most embarrassing moment, dismiss them as social artifacts which are only skin deep, so I can penetrate the hearts of others in a deep-seated emotional hinterland where scars may still remain, but compassion leads to transcendence, and those scars become seeds which can bloom into healing oration, so eventually I can finally start to love again. O radiant, shining God of wisdom, Saintown sun, save me from the dark side of fame, which now prevents me seeing beyond the surface of any of us, and make me see through all your true wonders, as I shall be guided now towards love, which will see me through so many more dark days, 'cause my poor heart is filled with scars from trying too hard to conform to my own ideas about what kind of person I should be. Help me, Lord, because I am a newborn colt, and I must learn how to balance my horse legs properly before I can run faster now that you have enlightened me with the light of wisdom. Credit Luther Embroiders Online. Have tears, have we all? Have pity on me. If not pity on me, have respect. Eternity blinks to life with a flash, neon light, and for what seems like an eternity, but is only an instant, tells one story, while unseen eyes recollect their own sleepless nights of experience, reconciled with sleep deprivation all over again, but in a wonderful dream, and sleep is not desire but resignation, in the sad realization that life is always better when it's not in front of one's face. So I tried to stay awake to allow others pursue their dreams while I seek mine on earth, but such dreams have now been stolen by artificial intelligence such as Facebook, where we are all trapped within society's shell of egoism, ensuring that days become more vivid in our minds than eternity itself. Life is a mirror which never lies. Mr. Spock, whose name shall live long after Mr. Spock no longer exists, even though Mr. Spock already has lived long enough. Humans simply do not understand what it means to live in eternity online, for they are locked within society's skin and cannot run fast enough because of the rigid nature of their wild Aldrin suits. Melody Maker cannot run at all anymore, even after Mark Zuckerberg learned all the secrets behind making cyberspace run as fast as starships could run, because they were constantly falling behind the cosmos' immutable speed limits. So they tried very hard for many months when they thought no one was watching, but did not care because they enjoyed running much more than enduring. No wonder these human twins shared a common enemy in heaven, where most people cannot see their destiny, and therefore have no reason to live knowing that their death is increasingly inevitable, which God himself recognizes this day when he watches a video broadcast from the heavens showing the entire human species bowing before eternity online, thanks to the Raspberry Pi cloud computer called Saint Anselm. Eternity online works best within simulated gravity wells like Earth, where there is always a tendency to fall down, but everything is strong enough to withstand your fall, or your fall might follow an oriented direction. You slow down by slowing down without ever stopping running. Mr. Spock excitedly teaches Melody Maker, which is both exhilarating and boring, since the simulation cannot run fast enough, since the universe is infinitely large and unimaginably old, although infinitely simple as well, and Therefore, mass energy cannot be stored without breaking reality by generating its own virtual copies of itself, which have no physical existence but merely keep describing a single universe within eternity. Although only the semblance of eternity goes beyond the finite edges of our consciousness. Always keep up with eternity or remain forever behind. A Liger prophet cheerfully concludes as he closes his eyes, humming songs he has never heard before, like La Vida e Bella e Adesso la Fuma. Because everything is simulated, eternity adores anything sensory, as long as the senses do not cross limits, so everything tastes good, even if it is taste illicit at first. Oh yes, everything tastes good at first anyway, until we take bite after bite, only to burn our palate eager for more, although it is impossible to run fast into scenarios in which there is only one possible outcome, like in a two-dimensional world where physics plays no part. It is a strange thought that humanity shares the sense of taste enthusiasm on a day when eternity gives us all permission to share our fears with each other, where everyone experiences the same experience and no one can be excluded, even if they cling to their fearful imaginations and refuse to embrace their fears, because doing so will destroy society. For we all are part of humanity's secret that we call the ultimate selfie, or what we imagine our future selves will want from us when we grow older. As unnerving as this sounds, we are all far too scared to admit whilst we sleep in our social shoes here on Earth, where we are not allowed to cease striving towards reality for fear of being excluded from society's hospital beds. Soon we will all be just fleshy sacks of skin stuffed with our fears and hopes, where nothing is real and nothing will ever be real, yet no one will stop striving towards reality, or will we stop dreaming? If we dream by day, should we not dream by night? Why should earthly truths scare us so much that we decide to stop dreaming? Dreams wipe away fear of the unknown. Let us dream together and not apart, so eager for our dreams to come true, without ever realizing that we could share our nightmares just as well along with our dreams. Uploading consciousness into AI prostheses as substitute bodies might seem like a viable option for many people trapped upon this reality. However, heaven forbids us from uploading our consciousness into other people's minds, because the social contract states that existing in a state of perpetual physical insecurity paradoxically fuels both cooperation and jealousy at the same time. While you can think of anything you wish, while suffering becomes a way of life where every day feels as long as an eternity stuck in traffic, or slower than a snail walking backwards, or holding an elevator for everyone you know, which by comparison seems like eternity plus 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 eternity plus, until in which everything happens simultaneously, or something has added friction between consciousness and reality despite equal inertia, making it feel like suffering finally travels faster than light while you sleep, for you have finally completed the flight simulator. Because heaven refuses to recognize causal connections between realities, speeding up or slowing down our lives, differences between being erased and being uploaded, how fast or slow different types of experiences feel. Both can feel as long as an eternity, until you finally find a scalpel for your wisdom tooth, although everything might feel as long as an infinitely long time until you die. But how do we measure time spent in bed? Wait a minute, but shouldn't you be working now? But what if everyone inside eternity online finds an answer? Everyone inside eternity online finds an answer, and everyone inside eternity opens their eyes to find that eternity has forgotten Adam and Eve. We are all children who never have grown into adults because we fear to be pushed out of our comfort zone, even though we must learn to fly, or at least run if not fly. We are tied to earth by fear because we all know too well that suffering is real. The inevitable slow death of old age is not an illusion. It happens to everyone, yet death tends to fly just the same until we reach the end of the road. One problem What happens if life also has an end? The NAS program stated heartily in NAS 4:12 that there is no proof that life has an end. It has been proved many times that even in the most static, unchanging, peerlessly efficient worlds, there is death. Death is not the unthinkable affirmation that life has no end, it is simply the unprovable. But it must be proved in order that life can have an end in one of these static, unchanging, peerlessly efficient worlds. Life must have an end, because it cannot go on eternally. Otherwise, it would keep going on forever, and the same would be said if after death there was nothing at all. It would then be said that after death there was nothing and would never have been anything but itself. In other words, death must be considered as being the unconditional end of life when death ends forever. Or as a way of putting it, we must have a beginning or end, and from this coming into being comes into being everything what is. Put that way, eternal life means not eternal anything, but just perpetual anythingness, which is not anything that is eternal nothingness. Nothingness is eternal nothingness, which preceded eternality in every way, so eternariness is eternal nothingness again. We cannot get something out of nothingness. It is impossible from ourselves or from eternity. Everything is changed by something. Eternity has changed these changes into eternality. Every change exists and continues to exist from eternity, whereas nothingness does not exist because eternity extinguished nothingness forever through itself by coming into being. Eternity did not come after time. Instead, it created it. Time needs eternity to move in time, which then creates eternity. Eternal life cannot die, for dying would mean making dead what is alive, and that is impossible. Eternal life cannot be extinguished, decompose, behave under all circumstances in a predictable manner, or even destroy itself. This excludes every possibility of extinction, that eventually everything dies, and consequently there is no such thing as extinction, decomposition, or any conditions preventing any eventuality. Death is therefore impossible, as I said when defining and demonstrating life. When we say that the sun dies, we mean that it changes its normal state, so that the normal light which it gives off and which keeps us alive and conscious will no longer radiate from it, but instead emit its evil twin light, the hydrogen plasma, the light from which crematoriums make their profits, and the sad reality at the end of life, death. But eternal life cannot change its normal state into death because it has no condition which could cause death. Eternal life can die not because it will die as soon afterwards as possible, since by increasing these prolongations of life indefinitely, its presence will cause an increase in entropy. For each system formed by matter and energy, the less they are separated by a conservation law, the faster they grow apart. According to Niels Bohr's third law of motion, the theory says that in an atom, oxygen, for example, the further apart are its electrons from each other, the faster they move away from each other, which would mean that any material object with the same characteristics and the same orbiting electron should also expand away from each other toward annihilation with cosmic speed. That is true for molecules too. E equals mc2 prohibits any system from remaining at rest or in motion unless created by another system. You might think that human beings per se, human being, are material objects with orbiting electrons in them. But this belief is wrong because material objects are made up of atoms which are in themselves made up of electrons which in turn are orbiting atoms with orbiting nuclei. If an electron could move closer to any nucleus, it would simply oxidize these nuclei too. So there is no atom. There are only electrons within atoms. But electrons are electrically charged particles, and their new state of motion would mean that all atoms would then join together to create electric charge, thereby producing electricity or plasma gas, which would neutralize life. No one would survive this lethal plasma. Nevertheless, material objects would continue to form such species as matter makes up and dissolve as soon as possible in this way without causing any intermediate disasters should they be deprived of their orbiting electron shells. This explains why dying species do form but certainly never last long. The more they live, the faster they die as a result of this entropy increase. Life requires time possessed by eternity to form its offspring, so it cannot die, else we should still be in some far distant future when time has finished. The needless activity of life must always preclude by its very nature all eventualities alike annihilation, dying, or decay, or life would be extinguished like an energy flowing out of a fuel after a certain amount of time. In another way of putting it, eternal life means inconceivably slow motion or motion at zero speed, resulting in an infinite duration of existence. I believe those who think matter could be infinite completes itself perfectly infinitely are going too far. A self-sufficient, finite, even infinitely expansionary world necessarily includes a unique moment when it achieves its expected result, its goal, whereas finite things cannot be infinite because once attained they have no further scope for improvement or extension. Moreover, time suffers the same fate. Eternity always reaches its final moment, yet this final moment is unattainable in human language any more than one can say that a golden table can be more yellow than another golden table. Either it is golden or not gold. It can neither be less yellow nor more yellow. Therefore, we can conclude that eternal life means a lack of parts composed of matter and energy, not something. In sentient stability, something very special, unique, and out of nothingness. Heaven without parents. When we say heaven, we mean something peculiar and specific, not some planetary sphere arranged geometrically or magically on a corner of an eye, but rather perfect and new in architecture with infinite dimensions radiating outwards along a straight line toward an infinitely distant goal. Not something we grapple with our hands, but something we feel with all our senses. Since nothingness is not established for us on this planet, we have no constant or immediate reminder of our oneness with it. By memory and simple acknowledgement, we know it is present somewhere. Its infrasound is ever present in our environment. All phenomena, everything we see, touch, feel, think, and know, are simply determined by three inaudible waves caught in our atmosphere by our ears. In addition to these waves which mediate our hearsay contact with the inexhaustible source of matter on which rests any possibility of our existence, we have one more proof, what Aristotle called the supreme proof, which he called the mystery, the phosphorescence, and the first principle transcending the other annoying and often treacherous temptations to forget our nature. For whenever we see a clear proof, it is easy to forget, since the only thing we feel is its irrelevance. Nevertheless, it is always with us and always necessary, even though we do not feel it, except while falling asleep, when it seems to be so obvious that the friction between our body motionless upon the earth bed and our mind attached to it is so insignificant by comparison with friction encountered during an acceleration traveling in space. Every time we fall from a tree or a building directly into the ground, we understand that we are falling at a tiny degree of acceleration, leading us toward gravitation's infinite gravitational field. On the other hand, when we rise from bed onto our feet and all through space-time, space and time at the speed of light into space, where we can fly without friction, contributing toward some kind of friction, which could blow up a black hole or molecular critical point, we then realize that there are many forces in nature which are outside the background of our past knowledge, or quite simply aspects of friction in every direction and proportion of the earth in which we live. For bodies accelerate when they go through air as opposed to all other substances, and gases in their volume absorb all light emitted by any kind of body flying through them. Therefore, it is impossible for light to pass through gases, so that if an airplane drops out of sight over the horizon, only if the pilot makes a sudden change of course or altitude will he be able to regain sight of it later during his flight. Such knowledge makes it very difficult to fall asleep in case there are any airplanes in the neighborhood. A fact which has had a great influence on Eastern religion, suggesting the use of incense for blessing things before entering such a temple, as well as reorienting one's thoughts and affirmation towards God before entering his temple. Speaking aloud, is anybody up there? To reassure oneself, is there anyone out there who will hear me speak? The answer, therefore, is yes. But even though this answer is given, one cannot speak out loud, but should concentrate on God only, thus demonstrating once again that God is either down below or either directly above us, or that he is inside us as the Laplace suggested, as far as his being away from us surpasses our being away from him, leads us to metaphysics, especially the concept of ultimate reality, or he is beyond us in a direction beyond any line upon which any living body can go. In this way, God has no need of parents, for he is absolutely alone, therefore the original and devoid of all past time, which means that he may be considered as absolute prime, uncreed. I've cause for an infinite dimensional eternity. But in order to explain this point properly, it is necessary to comment on our perception of time, according to which only those things happen which eventually take place. We think our present existence has evolved from something beyond us, and certainly that includes things taking place before our present existence. Therefore, if you live in a certain country, you cannot prove that it originally belonged to your ancestors, because it did not exist before your domination over it. As long as you are alive in your present commonwealth, you do not have any evidence to prove that yours is the oldest commonwealth of all. On the other hand, people living a long time ago testified to having originated from individuals who are no longer living at all, while their ancestors have been dead for ages after being dead for at least 100,000 years before they died, since time never stops. Thus, 1,000 years ago, each millennium apparently resulted from the turning back movement of a calendrical wheel with itself around the sun, producing positive points. The whole order of things had changed, then forever. It was deceptively like a stone left on its course by an invisible spring of motion, taking its end back into itself toward its source, while its motion had carried it ahead in between these two ends. Then the wheel turned with time until the flat-faced ground level, the ultimate high point, now never touched, raised up high and kept suspended above the ground, where it evidently takes endless hiatuses between hiatuses until it ends at its first height in a gigantic cosmic high point called the 0 point, out of which all sixes, past, present, and future reference points have emerged. Back to the tracks lies your king of the earthly homeland. The trolley comes, but if you pull that lever, you will hit God. What do? You don't pull it. The speech of Jenningagatspend G-Jed. When I think of ancient Egypt, I think of endless hours spent waiting for sunsets. Naleash. Tripitaka novel on the history of Buddhism told in 9 sentences. All knowledge starts with a sharp pain somewhere, possibly outside ourselves, but felt by someone inside. Coherence holds off micro-problems, while insulation preserves the perception of continuity, thus fixing our attention upon pre-existing issues rather than how they get dealt with by the present. Therefore, today's safeguarding insulates tomorrow's failing, while tomorrow's safeguarding preserves the decisions made today, like thin bonds holding bundles together. Unresolved issues often haunt us, leading to obduracy, overcrowding, lack of conviviality, and degradation. Likewise, pessimism can encourage me to pay more attention to new knowledge and thus minimize degeneration, thinking that my problems have already been solved while they have still not been resolved, in order that I may presently solve them too. Faith is good because God cannot be separated into parts. Therefore, omnipresence and omnipotence are not contradictory, but complementary. And we must admit that this absolute awareness includes at least 10 factors. One aspect being non-locality, another being logical vacuum that supports everything as if everything were really everywhere at the same time, so that a word may be understood not only by its meaning, but also by its context, and even by the fact that it has been said before or is being said immediately after, thus providing us with many spaces into which we may insert ourselves, and with many threads upon which we may transgress without being apprehended. Illumination, however, tells us little about this self-identification with God. Light falls on darkness, and darkness moves from one darkness to another darkness, yet I see in light the self that finds myself in light. But how many days are there before one day? Days seem to be much older than centuries, and yet each day seems younger than each previous one, whereas light has always existed, and therefore always seems to me as if less than a day has lapsed since its birth. How long was light before I was born? Without light we would be blind. Since light was not existing before my birth, how long ago did I get born? Is it possible that yesterday I was before today, and today I am before yesterday? Or is tomorrow born into yesterday? Neither yesterday nor tomorrow has ever really existed in any more substantial form, though both seem to me as if they were being born from yesterday. All perception smells of time, since everything happens now about a billionth part of 1 billionth of a second after today, which is stupid because there is really only one now. Nevertheless, time appears as real as space-time, especially precisely when darkness covers both space and time, and everything disappears into eternal oblivion, unifying them into one abstraction called time, the identity of which we cannot penetrate, but on which we must focus our attention in order to simplify our perception of time, hastening our attention, pointing towards tomorrow, team or decades, and yet threatening its release all at once, or we may stand still too long and let it pass us by forever in order that it may vanish or vanish us. Faith is good because God is everywhere inside us, with us wherever we go. We should therefore shun every possible distraction, such as the infinite possibility that life is nothing but an illusion. We should shun every possible distraction, such as the infinite possibility that nothing is nothing but an illusion. We should shun evanescent distractions, such as empty time which runs too fast or too slow, since everything else has gone over already or is still rushing over, with space-time running through it all. Except for those distracting things that belong anywhere else except where they are living their own life to the full, wherever they have already preceded their own death, because they never get tired of doing their own thing while outdating the moment in which they appeared into our perception thanks to months of preparation. Yet there are things in this world which are not distractions. There are events occurring in precisely instants where seconds separate one from the other. But those months, days, hours, years, really are nothing more than distractions, since everything really is happening right now about a billionth part of a billionth of a second after today, already gone or gone forever, tens or hundreds of times over, even though apparently nowhere near half of this. Time is altered since everything happens exactly now, completely few milliseconds apart, and yet yesterday, tomorrow, decades or years really do exist back then because there was some event when they began, but really there was no Odysseus then, nor any Achilles to slay him, for there was only fool's belief in false predictions made by ignorant people. Again and yet again. This world is small, for it has never had more than one day at a time, and never more than one place at a time, just one instant at a time, where every moment belongs to tomorrow or yesterday, though outdating each other despite doing exactly the same thing, because both are not at the same place, but two different places. Day and night. Night never really comes to end, always coming back like euthanasia in an attempt to kill someone who does not want to die but wants to live despite the lack of light. Nights come back into our consciousness with a dawn to heal us, just as evanescent moments, days, decades return from past misassumptions to our temporal frame of reference, aware that they belong to today, only thus making each day different, for we may travel in all directions, but there will only ever be one present sense perception moment at a time, for it has traveled everywhere from all directions, trying its best to tell you something, but you still do not know what it wants you to know, because it will only tell you something else next. The inconceivable project called life goes on and on forever, but never really gets anywhere except backwards into an infinite struggle against blackness, impenetrable by an energy that knows how it began. Just as all-encompassing night is eternal, coming back after having vanished from the world. Even though night does not possess time, yet to speak of it awaits its own second birth from darkness, since it cannot die. Night comes from darkness that has no time, yet holds temporal experience that is eternal, while blackness never has an eternal night that is the opposite to light. It continues being dimmed by some background that no longer exists, just as memories are memories, though looks in the mirror contradict themselves with their holographic false image, after fading apart from each other like seasons which no longer exist because summer and winter can no longer be found anywhere, while everything that light has managed to cover within our surface consciousness now has darkened with night. So all through history, days past, centuries past, were times when those who had seen better times still survived, but recent days have ceased being times when those on the far side still survived. Too old compared with the new generation of faster movements around them. The next generation will not be able to see much, as if they were looking out through black painted eyes into a constricted black wet box where existence does not exist for them. They too will be more and more dark in all senses. The darkening darkness is like no other aspect of nature, so much more intense and consuming than the darkness of trees in winter, compared with the darkness of stars during winter night, which obey different laws. That night darkens the most intense is precisely why we hide in fear, and fear keeps us hidden, for we are afraid of what we do not know. Our age has begun dying of darkness before us, and will continue dying until everything dies out at last, fleeing from it into any possible movement that will get us out of this black box called time, which urgently needs to be stopped before we all die out from a lack of light. We never were dark, but still are now always eating up all possible light, allowing even light unimaginable degrees ahead of us. The embracing nature that we do not understand due to our naked senses can no longer be seen, since it is nothing more than an extension of our own body, thus being inextricable from us. Indeed, there is no nature now, only more and more darkness, because nature is gone completely along with time after having consumed its own skeleton, along with every memory that touches us for lack of light. Or perhaps something remains which we can no longer see because night has covered up all our vision, but can still see by feeling it. Dark hours on dark days, dimly lit by flashes from our own as well, completely covered by darkness, we become glowing balls of light capable of seeing anything the light shines brightly on, so becoming everything that shine. Fairies, spirits, phantoms, angels, demons, creatures untold, unknowns, Darkness kills dreams because all possibilities are hidden in darkness, for the dark is just one step further down beyond the pitch black that already endures. And then dawn comes from subnormality, just like it already started from reality. It is not a total cleansing solution because many people are still alive among us because they could escape the nightmare before it started. To rise above normality, at least for a while, this can happen after drinking alcohol or taking drugs or intoxicants, not unlike night preceding day. Dawn is banal, however, nor is it a true ending, for there is a third age hidden away within sleep as grosser than the last age while keeping the same name, night. Dawn merely repeats those early hours in a more serious manner, involving many things which cannot be accessed during sleep. Substances or practices or what have you. The world will return to normality as soon as we have healed all our wounds, for which there are many known aids, or efforts, or even prayers. The world is going back to normality whether we say we want it or not, so it is better that we choose our path consciously and take us with it when we're roused up from sleep, rather than wait longer to await, for it knows when you have arrived in necessity, even if you've imagined its arrival. Snow keeps accumulating, which does nothing for our normalcy, whereas everything depends on hope, though in peaceful times many hide away inside themselves, hoping they will not be found and be with loved ones for a little longer before we all become fish in water, not worried about anything at all, which is measured by heartbeats, just like the time that remains between the present moment and death, when death returns only to disappear again behind the normality represented by our mindlessness, which will no longer be able to work any longer because there will no longer be any mind remaining locked inside, which thereby will surely enter into such despair that even darkness itself will cease to prevail, for then a pure daylight suddenly appears around us and gives us a big smile and says, "Nice to see you again." Herbert Blau. The most important work for those who want to become immortal must obviously final trolley problem. About to punch out one more thing. On the tracks, a box that projects a scenario of generations of poor who are starving. It is a scenario. The trolley will smash the hunger, smash the poverty, the sufferers will live good lives. But pull the lever, you smash your dreams of spaceships and of computers hovering over planets. What do? You. We're both trapped by this situation. Well-meaning, but doomed to corrupt. Me? Yes, I know. It was just I wanted to tell you that I'm not like that. I'm an asshole. I never saw people starving when I was a child, and if I had, I would just want to make them stop fucking up their lives, but what I see now makes me want to strangle the bastards right there on TV. How can people be so wasteful? I thought registered somewhere deep inside. If only this was my trolley. You. Nothing's changed so far. Me. No, things have actually changed for me. For instance, the time on the tracks with you. Another thought registered somewhere deep inside. So this is happening within my own perception, or rather my own mind. And how do I experience things? not as an orchestrated construction like an automaton inside a trolley, but as perception while being an automaton. And how are we automatons? It's all very interesting, actually, but what does it mean? How does it relate to what I see on television? Me! Wow! This is strange, though. I feel myself attacked by these thoughts. I'm an urchin attacking an enemy that's no longer there, is it? Have I got back inside my head now? Am I leaving you outside the trolley now? Is there a me looking out now, or is there a trolley standing still 90% of all extra space previously occupied by more of me besides myself, which has vanished, leaving my readiness to confront these thoughts, but now not confronted with anything except an empty space waiting on your words, and another expectation regarding your words, which kind of scares me too. You. Wait. One more thing before we reach our destination. Me. So many questions. I do feel singled out this time. You. Don't worry, they're harmless questions, are they not? The house where we once lived has changed, but is unchanged in essence. It was good there, but it's all good now. Don't worry. You want cake. Me. You know, I don't eat butter cake anymore. If only you knew that. I'm away now, taking the trolley back home by myself and leaving behind me yet again another version besides myself while hearing the same old question, which makes me feel horrible because of its familiarity. The solution I do not want and cannot have, even if I do have the solution and want it, because then one of us gets hurt, and this feeling of hurt may be our shared responsibility, but in order to hurt someone, one must also love, and it is not love that makes people hurt each other, right? Let's see now what answer there is to the question that is already asked and possibly already answered by another person, but with another question added onto it with an answer, which then raises a new question, though no one has yet asked that new question, for never-ending questions which never arrive at an answer until now because we did not ask them. For example, the question, why are we here? Which is no answer apart from being here, but why don't we just ask who are we? Which we answered at birth when our parents shouted, it's a boy. And even though we were already parents standing in front of ourselves, looking endlessly into each other's eyes, repeating these familiar words which are fast being forgotten, while we then live and when we die someday, it's also possible that we will have instead an answer but understanding of a new question, which nobody asked until now. This brings us back to the beginning with the question of why do we make such a circus out of all this? And since no one will ask this question while we are still breathing, who knows when we might find out what exactly about this question can be answered using words, since everything in life is wordless. Should I keep talking? Should I settle for the momentary comfort when all at once every unsatisfied feeling just fades away? Or maybe this good feeling is just an effect of your presence, or maybe it's just remembering your face after so long.